Everybody, it's your boy Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Today, you all are in for a treat. Today, we are going to talk about my favorite topic. One of my favorite topics is business. And this man is the business sales expert. He's going to break the tea, spill some tea, and share with us some of the things that we have missed, even in a COVID-19, because we're still in business and we still need to grow and we still need to be concerned about the aspects of business. You all are in for an absolute treat. Stay tuned, stay with us, stay engaged. Here we go. Hey everybody, it's your boy Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast, your host of the number one podcast coming to you live in America. And today we have an incredible guest speaker. This man, Mr. Tim Kubiak, brings more than 25 years of real world experience leading and selling in every type of economy, from boom to bust. As an individual contributor, executive, and founder, he's helped companies of every size grow and thrive across countless industry segments and business-to-business sales models. Please help me welcome to the stage the incredible, the amazing Mr. Tim Kubiak. Welcome, sir. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on the Gentleman Style Podcast stage. We are glad to have you. Appreciate you, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have such a superstar speaker. And you are making time in your busy schedule, so I appreciate it. Definitely. Sir, tell us what's I always like to start with this question. What's a routine that you have in the morning that gets you started, that has led to your success in business? What's a morning routine that you have? Is it yoga? Is it Pilates? Is it exercise? Is it meditation? What is it that you do in the morning that really starts your day off on a good foot?
The first thing is I start early. I'm not a late night guy, so it's not uncommon for me to start my day at 5 a.m. So, back when I was traveling pre-COVID, it was a lot of times hit the hotel gym. If I was home, it was yoga, and I'd be at the yoga studio. And of late, it's actually get up, hit the coffee pot, and wait for daylight to come, and then go usually walk outside.
Good. That's important, right? And the reason why I always ask that question is because a morning routine, you hear it so often. Every successful person has a morning routine that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the day. So I always like to ask so that we can get it in our heads and start developing those mindsets that successful people, and so we can start mimicking those habits. So thank you for sharing that, Mr. Tim.
Sure.
Absolutely. So diving right in, right? How have you seen it as you've traveled the world and as you've counseled and mentored and coached to businesses and sales tactics? How have salespeople had to adapt their approach since COVID-19 begun?
So first of all, everything's being done via Zoom, right? Or some web conferencing. And that was a big change at first. And you heard terms like Zoom fatigue and everything else out there, but it was learning to communicate and have the value. And the second part is really focusing on what the business's priorities were. It was really easy when times were good and everything was humming along to just assume that you were going to get the business, they were going to make the spend. And about a year ago, as we all know, people hit the brakes. And one of the big changes was the approval process. So literally, I've seen in clients and people that I work with, their clients' CFOs put the brakes on the CEO decision, not a corporate priority for the spend.
Really?
So yeah, absolutely. The approval process, I've seen corporate level decisions. I'm talking $1 billion corporations that used to be rubber stamped 10 grand, 50 grand a year ago. And it's a little bit less now, but it's still in place. A year ago, they'd be like, nope, nobody can spend any money over 10,000 without our approval. Don't care if it's a renewal. Don't care if it's this. So you had to, as a sales professional and as a business professional, understand what was going on and what had changed in that process. And so many people just got comfortable and didn't do the work early and lost business because of it.
Absolutely. So would you say in your expertise to any business, the most important you have several levels to business. You have HR, you have human resources, you got lawyers, accountants, CPAs, bookkeepers. To you, what's the most important segment to business? I think I know the answer, but who is the most important when in business?
So I'm going to give you two answers to this. Okay. The first
Perfect.
thing you have to know is, are you costing your customer money or are you making them money? Because that changes it, right? The second part of it is the two most important people are the people that hold the money and the people that see the benefit, the line of business. And that's a big shift we've seen. Um, right. The business benefits. So if it's a supply chain, take cost out. The people that hold the money have all the benefit. If you're doing more with less, the people that benefit from the throughput. But if you're producing a product and getting it to market and you're going to grow exponentially, then frankly, the sales organization and the people that are touching customers are going to have a lot more sway.
True. That's true. That makes sense. Give them a round of applause, y'all. That's huge, right? That's nuggets. That's nuggets you're not going to get anywhere else except on the Gentleman Style platform today. So that's huge. So, Mr. Tim, tell us, why are sales professional? Why do you recommend sales professional hire a sales coach? If I'm in sales, I should already be especially if I'm a top performer, I should already be where I need to be. The learning is done. I don't need to perfect anymore, do I?
Everybody thinks sales in old school terms. They think tactics. I'm going to do this and make people buy. Sales coaching, that's sales training. How do you make a call? How do you position yourself? How do you close a deal in the old world? It is what people think. Sales coaching should be something very different. It is strategy. It is looking at your book of business and determining where to spend your time to get the biggest return. I use sports analogies a lot. So if you look at the top athletes, they have trainers, they have position coaches, they hire and pay for people with their own money. And frankly, that's what a lot of the top sales performers do. Most of our clients are mid six-figure earners or better, and they hire us because they need an objective opinion. One of the things I like to tell people is, I can tell you the truth, because if you don't need me tomorrow, I've got a line out the door of other people who do. I'm not dependent on
Wow.
the paycheck or the job. So it's like going to an attorney and getting good advice. Hey, have you looked at this? Have you thought about that? It's just perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that makes sense, right? So top performers, and I'm glad that you brought up the comparison about professional athletes. LeBron James, the Cowboys star quarterback, right? All these professionals hire experts to continue to keep their game top performing, top notch, right? One of the things that I learned, even in sports, right? You always see the top athletes. What do they do when they're sitting on the bench? They're not just sitting there drinking Gatorade. They have massages. They're having someone keep them sharp, keep them ready for the next challenge. All right. So that's what they pay for. And so as a sales professional, you have to continue to hone that skill, hone that craft. And they need you to have that neutral perspective, because when you go into a business, is there an assessment that you do, or do you go in and spend some time and learn about where the improvements can be made in the sales performance of that top performer?
So believe it or not, we don't just take a client on. It's actually like a dating process in a lot of ways. It'll start with a 30-minute conversation. And are you a fit for me? Are we a fit for you? Right? Kind of conversation. And a lot of times we'll say, hey, you know what? This is great, but what you say you're looking for probably doesn't fit with what we do. And we may make a recommendation, we may not, depending on what the situation is. And people should do that. So is there a blueprint? Yeah, we believe that you can focus on your top opportunities and move the needle greater. But do we know that works for everybody? Do we know that we fit for everybody? No. We've had people bring us our teams and say, look, we've got these people. They're great. We don't want to help them. We want to help the bottom of the barrel. And there's nothing wrong with the people that are their C players, so to speak, except they're just not performing. But we won't start there. We'll actually decline the engagement. We want to work with people that are doing well and bring them up 20% higher than what they're doing, and then we can bring up the B plus players. And we've done it time and again, and we know it works.
Powerful, absolutely. So speaking of top performers and B plus players and people who are not doing well. Why is it so many people? The ratio, the numbers about people who get started in sales is significantly high. Why do so many people who are starting out in sales struggle or fail?
So I have a picture I like to show. So imagine it. It's a guy getting pushed off the top of a boat into the ocean, and his arms are flared out, right? And he can't swim, and he's panicked. And that's what we do to salespeople. Going back to a football analogy, so often when you hire a salesperson, it's if you think of the 2-minute drill, what you're doing is you're saying, here's a minute on our products. And that's great. Product information is important. Here's 30 seconds on our company policies. Okay, great. Here's 25 seconds on using our systems and why we're wonderful, and 5 seconds about why our customers actually buy from us. The reason salespeople fail is a lot of times they're not given guidance, right? I've worked with a lot of salespeople, and one of my favorite success stories is there was a guy that expected me to fire him when I walked into the get to know meeting. I was acting as a vice president of sales. I was leading a big expansion, and he literally brought his stuff packed up, ready to hand it over to me.
Wow.
And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I know these 3 people told you to fire me, so I'm just making it easy for you. I don't want there to be any hard feelings. I'm like, we haven't even had a conversation. I don't know anything about you, right? And it turned out the man was doing an incredible job, and he was doing 3 other people's job, including his manager's job, but not his own. So they were measuring his success not on what he was hired to do, or on what he was hired to do, not what he was asked to do. And the happiest moment was I saw him succeed. And 2 weeks ago, he actually called me, and he's now the top salesperson in the company. So, it can happen. It can change. The other reason people, they bounce. You got to dig in. You talked about, persistence. And one of the things you see in business is showing up early. You got to stick with it. Now, it doesn't mean you don't learn. Doesn't mean you don't adjust. But you can't run away when it gets hard. Dig in. Figure out why it's not working. Ask people, hey, I know you made another decision, or I know we're no longer in consideration. Can you help me understand what was important to you? Next time, learn to ask that question before you get to that point, but at least learn from the loss.
Absolutely. So that sounds like a number of different things. It sounds like they give up too soon, right? They don't stick in. That gentleman had already packed up. He was ready to throw in the towel, even though you hadn't even talked to him. But it's the VP of sales coming to talk to me, so it must be the end. When in actuality, it was actually a deeper assessment that was all required. And now he wasn't doing bad. He was just spread out really thin.
Yeah.
So that's huge, and that's major. So in sales, what are some things that companies can improve on, or sales leaders can improve on to create high performing teams and organizations?
So focus on the deals that matter. So CRM systems, they're important, and every company needs to have one. But it's not like buying a Google ad where you're going to convert X percentage of the time, right? The input is not that mathematical. Now, you'll get to know that this salesperson's right 90% of the time, and this one's right 20% of the time. Don't rely on your CRM. The other thing is, don't believe, pardon my language, your own BS, right? Don't go and stand in a circle and talk about how great your product is and how great this innovation is. Go talk to customers. That's one of the things as a sales leader that frustrated me is you spent so much time away from customers, right? And it's not that you still want to carry the bag and be the seller, although some people do, right? Let your team run it, trust your team, skill them up. But the other part of it is talk to customers, find out what they care about, find out what their challenges are. Talk to their sales teams, if nothing else. Don't just go to procurement. Don't just get the price view of what you do. And that's a great thing you can do, because then you can share it. The other thing is everybody feels they have to have the answer, right? Oh, I'm the sales leader. We're going to answer this. Open it up to the team. We talked about coaching earlier and athletes. Look, the best minds in the world go to other minds, right, for their areas of expertise. If you have a finance problem, go to your CFO. If you have a sales problem with the type of customer you haven't sold to before, go to somebody who's senior, or even somebody who's junior, who's solved that kind of problem. Make the calls collaborative and about collaboration, not an inspection. of did you do there's tons of things for that, but have the conversation and be proactive and positive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's huge. That's huge. One of the things for me, even when I got into sales, it was very difficult. And I saw this happen all the time. It was the company would just hire they would do hiring events, and it was just a massive influx of salespeople, right? Instead of actually spending the time to train up good top performers. And just like you said earlier, not just a 5 second, here's our product, here's what we do, here's where your leads come from, here's here's a crash course in our CRM system. Now go out and sell your heart out. That's not the answer. And I think a lot of companies do that, is they just say, well, let me throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, right? And that leads me to my next question. Do you see that happening on your end? Because that's what I experienced. And what's the real answer? What's the fix? Is it what you said earlier? Just taking the time to really train people up, or bringing your company in and bringing you in as an expert to really teach and explain this thing?
So there's a lot of answers because there's a lot of problems. The first thing is,
Right.
and it's going to sound like a marketing term, and it is, but you need to look at it through a sales lens. Is you need to understand what your ideal customer looks like. Not everybody's going to buy from you. Look at who buys from you today, and find their double, right? Find people that are similar or share qualities or industries or have similar business needs. It's not the whole world. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's not always sales. Sometimes product is off, right? I've watched people spend a lot of money launching things that nobody needed. So it goes to understanding, what does the market want? What are they willing to pay? And by the way, I pick on tech founders all the time. Great, you built this and you're going to go try to raise $15 million. Fantastic. By the way, does anybody want it? Well, they don't know they have this problem. Then you've got to educate them. If they know they have the problem and you give them the solution, it's a much lighter path.
Right? That's the ticket. I love that. I love that. That was Tesla's big issue, right? Tesla, when they first got started, they made a car that was only affordable to a certain demographic, and that's what you spoke with. That's what you spoke to. They built this thing, and it was, everybody wanted a self-driving car, but no one could afford it. And that's how you end up with all these different versions now. Now you got the Model X, now you got the Model T. He had to scale it down because he went too big, and he made it unaffordable. That's what you're speaking to, right? That's
absolutely right. And he brought it. If you think about it, he did the opposite of what a lot of people do. He started up market and he knew to come down market. So many people try to start down market and work their way up. So in that way, he was very unique.
Absolutely. He was. Absolutely. We are going to go to a quick commercial break. You all don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I'm Marcus Norman, bringing fresh vibes to hot topics surrounding culture, relationships, business, finance, sex, dating, faith, and everything in between. Whether you're into passive income opportunities, trending topics and useful relationship tips, or dynamic guest speakers, there's something for everyone. You can expect all that and more every week. If you're down with this content, then consider joining our growing community by subscribing to Gentleman Style Podcast and smash the bell to get on our VIP list. Your support means the world. Thanks for watching. Link to my channel.
Hey everybody, we are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. We have the incredible, amazing Mr. Tim Kubiak, and he is here spilling the tea on sales practices and changing the game and changing our mindset so we can get to a better business and do better business and then develop our sales team properly. So thank you for joining us. If you're just tuning in, if you missed this, Mr. Tim Kubiak is a sales and marketing guru. He is the man he's the man that's going to companies and showing companies, even in COVID, how to do better business with their sales team and develop a better sales system. whether it be your CRM funnel is broken, your team needs more development, they need more training, or they need better materials, whatever it is, Mr. Tim is the man. And he's here today spilling some great, great tea. Mr. Tim, we have changed. COVID-19 changed everything, right? It changed the way we do business, and we can no longer, the door-to-door salesman, I would think in this market is outdated now. And now we have to get more creative. What are some new things that we have to adapt to as sales professional and teaching our team so that they can still continue to draw in business and find new clients and prospect?
So you're right. Door to door is pretty much a thing of the past, right? But
Right.
we've actually seen people go the other way. And we've seen the challenge where people have hid behind email and social media and marketing campaigns and automations and not had the real conversations. And if you get nothing else from me, it's talk to potential customers, talk to prospects, have a genuine conversation. And that's one of the things that you had to change in COVID is you got to get much more concise. Years ago, you heard, what's your elevator pitch, right? It's Silicon Valley thing. It's spread everywhere. But the truth is, right, you start the conversation with, tell me about your business. Tell me what your problems are, right? And I use a phrase, and sometimes people get their feelings hurt. But if there's not a bruise to poke, if you don't know what problem you're going to solve, you can't fix it, right?
Right.
You're not going to walk into the doctor and they're going to look at you and say, oh, it's your right ankle. No, if he didn't see you walk in and you're just kind of sitting there, they have no idea. So you have to do the discovery. And COVID's made that important because you have to understand, we talked a little bit earlier about where they are. You cost them money, you save them money. And COVID's amplified that. The other thing that's changed with it is, I laughed for years. We had video cameras and nobody used them. Now, if you don't turn them on, everybody's like, what are you doing?
Right? That's so true. That's so true. It's so true. And you're right, right? We are now migrating to now a virtual platform on now virtual system, and businesses have to change or they're closing. They're literally shutting the door. And so do you think it requires a new level of sales professional? Now the sales professional needs to be familiar with e-commerce, right? He now needs to integrate into, if I have a product, now I need to focus on getting people to my website versus setting the appointment or setting down for that consultation.
So look, e-commerce, there's no doubt it has grown like mad, right? And everybody knows the restaurants have pivoted to takeaway, right? And online ordering have done better. The part not everybody sees, and this is part of, no matter what you're selling, you got to look at where you fit, is the people who enabled that were the packaging people, right? Who made the bigger bag for McDonald's? Who made the better takeout containers for the local restaurant takeaway, right? How did the Mexican restaurant industry, which had virtually no takeaway business, go to delivering tacos that weren't soggy and things like that? And I know packaging is a single stream, but finance has done that. You've seen software and security move to the cloud at a rate that was unimaginable. One of my favorite stats is last year, PC sales were supposed to decline 8%. Everybody was saying, yay, that'll be a great year. If we only decline 8% or slightly less, we'll beat the number. And by March of last year, they were at a 2% decline. There was an unprecedented demand. Is it repeatable? No. But people had to shift their businesses, and now they have to secure it. And there's the whole debate of work from home, go back to the office, and that's every company has to make their own decision there. We're seeing it all across the board. So,
absolutely, that's powerful and that's important, right? That's the pivot, y'all. That's the pivot that Mr. Tim teaches to and that he speaks to, is the pivot point where businesses have to make the transition and develop a better quality sales team and really focus on delivering, meeting your customer where they're at, right? Whether it be online or door to door or in the marketplace, wherever that may be. Mr. Tim, my last question is company culture, is a company who focuses on the culture is more competitive than their competition? Is that a competitive advantage to you, do you think?
So I think culture is growing in importance. Is it a distinct competitive advantage? No, because in innovation or customer focus is a distinct competitive advantage. But buyers have changed, right?
Right.
I don't want to speak for your audience or you, but I spend my money where they represent my values and my beliefs, right?
Right.
And consumers are much more educated. And there's a statistic out there that by the time someone has started a true buying journey, 75 to 80% of the decisions been made. They've done research, they understand it. We'll use the car industry. Used to have auto magazines, right? And then go into the dealer and you looked at the cars and they handed you a brochure. Now, customers are much more informed. And that's the difference. That's the change. Take them on the journey, help them along.
That's so true. That's so true. Absolutely. Take them along. Mr. Tim, what's a book that you recommend every man or woman read?
A Random Walk Down Wall Street.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yep, it's not a sales book. It's about economics. But I think, and it may be a little dated now, but I think it gives you a view of how markets and things work. So that's my first recommendation.
Absolutely. What's your favorite way to give back to your community?
Pre-COVID, we actually volunteered at Dog Rescue in East St. Louis, and we have 3 rescues in our area. So that's been the charities that are part of what my family's done for years.
I love that. You're the second person. You're the second one to do something with our 4-legged friends. So I appreciate that. Love that. Love hearing that. And lastly, Mr. Tim, how can people connect with you? How can people grow with you and get on board with what you're doing? What's the best way to reach out to you and your team?
Sure. So the best way to find me is at timkubiak.com. And it's just TIMKUBIAK.com. You can link to me everywhere from there. The podcast that you're going to be on here shortly, right, to my social medias and everything else. You can find me there. You can also find me on LinkedIn. And I'm not shy. If you message me, I answer all my own emails. My team doesn't do it. So, I'm sometimes a little slow, but I will personally answer you if you send me a note.
I love that. So connect with Mr. Tim. He has an incredible podcast. Check him out. Check out what he's doing and get to a better place in business. We all need to get to a better place in business. This is huge and phenomenal, and this is impactful, and this is what we need, right? This is how we survived, right? This is how we're going to make it out of 2021. So, Mr. Tim, I want to thank you, sir. I appreciate you spending time with us today and giving back in this way. I consider this a form of community and giving back and serving. So thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I want to say this to you publicly. Don't give up, right? Don't give up what you're doing. Don't stop what you're doing, because what you do is very, very important. We need what you're doing in order to make it to 2022. So don't ever quit. We need you. The world is influenced by you every single day. And thank you all, my audience, for tuning into the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I hope this message has served you, and I hope it helps get your mind thinking and the brains flowing, because we need this. And if you have questions about sales in your company, check out the website below, MrTimKubiak.com, and that's TimKubiak.com. Thank you all for tuning in. Like I end every show, take care of your family, take care of your friends, and take care of business. This is Marcus Norman, the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, signing off. Love you guys. Bye.